Hello, and welcome to Child Abuse and Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Please like, subscribe, and share. Before we introduce our guest to get him in here talking, I always like to do a couple Bible verses. In Matthew 18, verse 6, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. In Matthew 18, verse 10, take heed that you despise not one of these little ones, for I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Be sure that you know that evil men understand not judgment, but they that seek the Lord understand all things. And learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. Hello there, Jackie. It's so good to see you. Thanks for coming. We were having a little bit of technical difficulty, so I've got Blackstone lawyer on the phone. I hear, I hear an echo on your end on mine.
Yeah, it's me. Uh,
Can y'all hear him? Just let me know. You'll see in the comments if you hear people. Put a one if y'all could hear him, please. Please put a one in there. He said he's faint. Okay, try again.
okay, let's see here. Is this going to be better?
Put a one if that's better. We're going to try directly. Oh, she said she hears you fine. She said she hears you fine now, okay?
Okay, well, good deal.
Okay, can you see the comments at YouTube?
Yes, ma'am.
Good to go on the sound, she said.
Oh, good. I hope everybody's doing well, and that has always been, for the record, you just quoted pretty much everything that I have used as my banner and everything that I've ever worked on in my, over 30-year career as a child protection activist. They like to call people child rights activists, but there's a difference between us and them, I guess. Simply because of my experiences since my childhood. And I've listened to yours, Darlene, and it's pretty harrowing what you went through. And I'd like to share some of mine, which is nothing near as harrowing what a lot of people like you have gone through, but mine was pretty deadly.
Could I say?
As it was.
Could I say something right there?
Mm-hmm.
We cannot ever say mine was worse than yours and yours was worse than mine. We got to accept it as it should have never been done, no matter what degree or what was done. It never should have been done.
Yeah, that's true. Um, there's no arguing with you there. When I first started out, was actually.
Do you see the? You got a comment down there. There's somebody's telling you hello.
Hello.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Um, anyway, um, I I really kind of got snookered in it. I thought I was going to go do this great thing in Chattanooga, Tennessee for these people. They were going to put out this child abuse awareness um, magazine to wake the people up to the issues of child abuse, the different forms, and so on and so forth. And well, of course, telemarketing, and it really wasn't what I expected as far as the product that they were putting out. And I don't know if it's really ever put it out or not, but it motivated me to go to um, the county seat of my hometown, and that's Marietta, Georgia, and see if I could get it set up with Cobb County school system, um, where they could take different victims of child abuse and use their stories, without their identities to spread the signs and awareness of, child abuse in different forms, of course, besides just, sexual abuse.
Right.
So, um, that's how I started out in 19, I remember 1988, 1989, and pretty much was hushed up there one day by some people that I was having issues with ever since I was 6 years of age. Because it just didn't decide one day, think that just, going and being a telemarketer for these people for this thing that was, to me supposed to be this great thing, um, really was more of an awareness program that I wanted to put together. And in 1992, I wound up coming with a name for it, and its abbreviation is CAPASCAM. And it stands for the Coalition Awareness Program about Sexual Crimes Against Minors. Because what happened to me in 1972 was I became a target by this particular contractor, um, and he did all kinds of contracting. Believe me, the developing and building was among them. And my dad was his number one competitor. Um, he was building all over East Cobb County, neighborhoods just on every major road ahead of his um, other developer. So he was out there getting the land and getting the zonings and putting in these nice sized developments before this other developer could get his hands on the land to do it. Well, another form of contracting that he was into was child pornographic material.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm. Now here was my dad. He didn't even have an ninth grade education. Um, managed to make his way in the Coast Guard right at the end of World War II, and didn't even go to basic training. He got in trouble one day. one of his commanding officers, because he didn't salute him, didn't know to, didn't know how to. He didn't even know how to. Just, here's your uniform. You're a sailor now.
Oh boy.
So that's how he got in the Coast Guard. He wanted to go, protect the coast. He had his brothers in the Navy. He wanted to make certain the coast was safe. So, and you know, his family, they were not, real wealthy. You know, my grandfather, he drove the trolleys from, Marietta down to Atlanta from Georgia Power. I think just around 1919 or something like that. Just, about 6, 7 years after the trolleys started, he operated them until they shut them down in 1954. And he raised 11 children doing so.
That's a lot of kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, his dad and his brother wound up marrying two sisters. One wound up having 13 children. And of course, grandfather, he was the one who wound up with 11.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry. I was drinking something and I almost spit it out because it's like, whoa.
but anyway, um, between some developments, he wound up having to wait for his permits. It was going to take possibly 6 weeks, which only turned out to be 2 weeks. But he agreed to pay this equipment operator, a certain amount of money each week toward groceries and stuff, take care of his family, of course, and was doing so. But he thought it was going to take him a little longer to get these permits and start these two developments. One was right there by the house that we were living in. When he moved us there, the whole reason why he moved us to that place was start two developments, one next to us and one across the road. And so he takes the job. It's supposed to be like, a month or most with his building contractor. Goes in and accepts the contract. Well, not even 2 weeks later, but that gets his, permits. Go in and go ahead and break ground, do his developments. And he didn't have a heavy equipment operator. Of course, back then, all the contractors, they had their place that meet there at Marietta. One, most of Dunkin' Donuts used to be located over close to where Williamson Brothers Barbecue is located there on Rousel Road. The newer one, they moved it all down, way down a few miles to Piedmont Road. And but back in the day, it was either Dunkin' Donuts or the Dunaway Drugs on the square of Marietta, where all the developers and builders go have their breakfast stuff. The developers, Dunkin' Donuts, mostly the builders at the Dunaway Drug Store, cafeteria. Well, he couldn't find a temporary heavy equipment operator, and all the full time ones that were really in that line of work were already busy. So he was told by this developer that his son-in-law or adopted son, son-in-law, his adopted daughter's husband, Was very well experienced. Um, was in the Army Corps of Engineers, heavy equipment operator. Um, Very talented. And, he was becoming a police officer in Cobb County, and he could use the work for about 6 weeks. Well, he was first, reluctant about it. And, they got more appealing. He went to church every Sunday with his family. Was this upright, fine Christian man. You know, 3 children that was same ages. My siblings and I, and a very good, devoted husband to his adopted daughter. His niece, adopted, and well, my dad went against his better judgment and wound up hiring him. And we found out it was the contrary. Yes, he had applied to become an officer with the Cobb Police Department, but his application was on hold pending investigation. And what had happened was he had been arrested in another state for domestic violence, where he had um, got violent with his wife and his children. His 2 sons, and his youngest was his daughter, who was 5 years of age in '72. Her brothers, the other one was 8, almost to turn 9, and the other one was like 10, almost going to turn 11. So she had caught him cheating, and the daughter, one of his lovers, he wound up sexually abusing. Don't know what degree, but it was pretty much how she found out that he was out having an affair on her.
Wow.
So, you know, and it gets worse, much worse. Um, Way worse than what a normal person could imagine at 6 years of age. But like I said, not to the extremes that other victims have fallen to. And I just thank our Heavenly Father that I not had to endure that as a child growing up. But what I did endure was bad enough.
Would you like to discuss that?
Well, sure. Um, I had I had this deadly bout of double pneumonia while my dad was still looking for a heavy equipment operator. I went in just before he got his permit. I didn't go in the hospital. There was this clinic in Woodstock, Georgia, by this Dr. Bodie. I can't remember his first name. They still have Bodie Medical Clinic over there, but they don't offer any of the services that he did in the 1970s and into the late 1980s until he passed away. But there was another doctor that carried on his work and maintained that clinic. But it provided the same services, similar services to that of a hospital, because my dad didn't have insurance. So he put me up under his care. At a fraction of the cost of what it would, costed him at Kidney Stone. I'm sorry, Kidney Stone Hospital. Um, and I survived. And I'm not going to get into details, but I just came back knowing I was going to have my first encounter with the devil. And I just, just pretty much what I was told. I was going to meet my first devil. And I did by the name of Jim Stubbs.
Is it Jim
Well,
Stubbs?
Jim Stubbs, James Stubbs.
Yes.
Is from Decatur, Georgia. And so when I came home, I just woke up one morning, just like I never had double pneumonia. All my signs were normal, and nurses couldn't believe it, doctor couldn't believe it. So I get to go home that morning, and my mom had me lay in bed and just take it easy, just to keep an eye on me and monitor me. And of course, eventually we let me come in, watch TV. But the next morning, I woke up to the sound of heavy equipment, front end loader breaking the ground on Frankie Lane and Holly Springs Road in Marietta. So I got up and went in and had my breakfast and went out to watch, the construction, begin Frankie Lane. So I was sitting there watching, and finally the equipment stops. My dad asked me if I wanted to ride, and I was like, well, certainly, let's ride one. So I got to get up and ride in this guy's lap, and, while running, he was really nice right off the bat. Like he was my new best friend, a new protector. He was going, he's going to become a police officer. This is how it went. The more I rode the machine with him. Well, of course, my dad couldn't hear what was being said, hearing, equipment operate. Um, and when he did question what was said while I rode with him, what could a 6-year-old say? Well, it's real nice, Dad. He's like my new friend, wants to meet his children, says he got his daughters, to be my little sweetheart, blah, blah, blah. And that's pretty much was it. And my dad, he really didn't um, really have any suspicion to suspect anything um, until after what took place at this guy's residence after they finally convinced my parents to allow me to come over and spend the night with he and his wife and children.
You're doing good.
No. My dad told him, he goes, well, I'll let Charles come over there and stay the night, but under the conditions that he doesn't bathe with any of your children. He doesn't sleep in the same room with any of them. He has his own private room and bed to sleep. And I'll let him come over there and stay the night, see how it goes. And that was the agreement. So, anyway, we get over there, and there was these two long concrete horse stables you used to be able to see from the road. People used to see it all the time. It's a place called Bentley Farm. They had been built like in the late 1950s or mid 1950s, right in that area, 57, 58, if I remember correctly. On what I remember correctly, her first name was Terry. Um, she was Terry Bentley before she married him. Well, he wound up putting me in the tub with his 5-year-old daughter. And she was teaching me things that little 5-year-old girls should not know or be taught by their daddies, to turn around and teach other little boys, especially doing that type of activities with their brothers. And I still feel really, really so sad for uh, Mrs. Stubbs, because I did get to go and talk with her about it in 1998. And we had a really, really in-depth conversation. And
Did she know any of this stuff was? Did she know any of this stuff was going on at the time?
oh yes, yes. When they were living out of state, um, I think he was doing some work for oil company. And when he out in Louisiana, I think it was where they were living when he was doing the work after getting out of the Army Corps of Engineers. And um, so when he beat her and the children the first time, neighbors overheard what was going on and called the law out. Law came out, locked him up, and the judge put out a protective order against him. And she moved, filed for divorce. She had tried to get away from him earlier before that, and her uncle who adopted her would not allow her to divorce. When she said till death do we part, he meant either she would have to die or Jim would have to die to be more like her instead of Jim.
Mm.
So she moves,
that
I think, into Mississippi, like 40 miles away, where she wouldn't be too far from, where she had to go to court, testify against him, keep the children protected, and get her divorce until he could be sentenced and put in jail. Well, she was very reluctant in contacting her adopted dad. Um, because she was afraid that he would let him know where she and the children were living and had moved to.
Right.
So the holidays came back around in 70. She decided to call on Thanksgiving to see how he was doing. So she didn't call him. She went and called one of her aunts, and told her not to tell anyone where she was at.
Right.
And that aunt wound up calling her uncle, her, adopted dad there, and told him where they were at. So he hires this private investigator to go and look for her. Of course, they find where she and the children living at. Lets them know. Well, he sends Junior and Jim out there to where she was at.
Oh no.
So when Junior came walking in the door, he was hoping he didn't bring him with him, but he did. He come in the door just to let her know that he did bring him, and he let him in to do whatever he wanted. And he walked out the door and sat outside and listened to the
Oh man.
whole. She was given one of two options: either die or be a loving, supporting wife and mother of the children the way he dictated.
Yes, it
So
is.
since he took the children the way that she did, he was going to do his thing with their daughter. And they were going to do what he wanted her to do. Or he'd just kill her and still do it with the children. Pretty much for it. And that was the terms she was given before he nearly beat her to death.
Oh man.
So
Jackie said, "Oh my God, horrific," and bucket list is like angry about how it was done. So
yeah.
you got supporters
So
here.
so that's how I wound up becoming a target. I was the youngest of four children. Um, one of the largest develop, developer builders in Cobb County in the 1970s, and was basically to the greed one adult male. Um, and before he dropped me off the following morning, um, after we had breakfast and all that, um, he let me know that I was welcome to come back over and spend the night again. But if I was to tell anyone, especially any of my siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, people went to church with, classmates, because if word got back to my dad about what happened, he would immediately kill my dad.
And he would have done it too. It wasn't just a threat.
Oh no, he proved that. He proved that almost 3 years later. So of course, I wound up eventually flipping and telling my older brother. And he immediately went running in and told her mother. Disregard of what I screamed at him about the dress when he went running in to tell her mother. So, of course, my mom, she called me in, let me know I wasn't in trouble. I didn't do anything wrong, but she needed to know what had happened and all of that, the night at the house. And it was pretty much, um, he had went and purchased this decommissioned patrol car the county had. And he was going up to the first precinct where the main headquarters used to be back at the time. And hanging out with police officers and it actually buddied up with a couple. Well, one loaned him a pair of trousers, another one loaned him a shirt. So he managed to buy this patrol car in two payments. Um, but what was the red flag was, which my dad wasn't there when he got there, but he kind of questioned it, later on, once he knew to question it. Because it took more than 6 weeks for the other heavy equipment operator to get finished with the work by the time the builder decided to give him more work. And so instead of just turning into 6 weeks, it turned into like 2 months or a little more than 2 months, maybe 2.5 months. But all the time, loving to ride heavy equipment. Sometimes I'd get out when my dad was riding it and ride with him. And when he wasn't operating it, he would let me ride with Jim. And every time I was riding with Jim, he was, grooming me and all that. So one day he's supposed to be working with the department. He had already been accepted. He had talked with the commanders. Since he was still working with him, he could still go in part-time training on the weekends and work with the department a little bit, blah, 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 blah. But still could work with that during the week on a bunch of eyewash. And I can't believe my dad fell for it. But he was a very busy man. And so he came by the house one day when he was supposed to be, in training with the department. Didn't have a badge, name tag, you know, holster or gun, but he had the pants, the shirt, and the automobile still had the little single blue light on the roof. Um,
But he really wasn't a police officer, right?
no, no, but he managed to borrow, the pair of trousers and shirt from the two officers. And I just kind of have a feeling I just know which one of them, one of the two. But anyway, well, no, it couldn't have been him because he didn't become a police officer until 7. That's right. But anyway, I get out because there was a police officer in Cobb County. And we'll get into him later.
Right.
But anyway, um, the we got to the place and there was another concrete horse stalls that had a game room. And it consisted of a ping pong table, air hockey table, dartboard. And the living quarters were adjacent to it, and they were 4-bedroom living quarters they had for the ranch help. So he had his little decommissioned patrol car sitting there. I think it was Ford Fairlane. It's what they used in 1970 or you know, up until 1970. But 1971, County had started driving the Chevrolet Caprice Classics with a double headlight, siren in the middle. Totally different looking automobile. And much bigger. Uh, but his car didn't have the radio, and I think they took out the glass off the front behind the seat, but the rest was still the decals, and the blue light, and of course the spotlights, they come with, and so I got to sit in it when I first got there, and I got to meet the children, and we went to the game room. First time I got to learn to play ping pong. First time I got to play hockey. Just getting along with the children great. And, the daughter, she was like 8.5 months younger than me, just a little sweetheart, just so sweet. And so the brothers, they were like, well, hey, tonight, you're going to bathe with our sister, right? I was like, well, I don't know if my parents are going to like that or not. Well, you don't know until your parents, but believe me, you're going to want to bathe with our sister tonight. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to have more fun than you've had in your entire life playing with our sister. So I was groomed by the children, of course. And when we got called into uh, before we got called into the dining room table to eat, he sat there and pulled out his guitar and played his guitar and sung a song. Of course, there's my newfound friend with his children and all, and I was, complimented him, and that was great. Well, when we got called into the dinner table again after being able to leave after that, go back out and play some more, um, he asked me if I was going to bathe with her. The decision was if I was, and something told me I better agree to. So I agreed to it. And he smirked at me. He goes, "Man, it's a good thing that you made that decision because if you told me no, you know what I was going to do?" Of course, I was always raised for manners, and I was like, "Well, no, sir, what's that?" Well, I would have taken you out and hit you in the head immediately with shop hammer, and told your parents that you ran off.
Oh my. He was going to basically kill you if you would have rejected.
If I told him no, he was going to kill me.
Wow. I'm sorry you had to endure that.
Oh, he tried. Oh, he did try. So before I went back out after the supper table, he went in and sat down and watched his news. And one thing I can say about him, one thing he was like my dad about, he did not like to hear anything while the anchor man was talking there, which, Robert Conkai. Yeah. And so I had to wait for intermission. So he asked me, he goes, "Well, Charles, what is so important you want to talk to me about?" I was like, "Well, Mr. Stubbs, I came over here thinking we were friends. He goes, well, maybe that's something you'll learn in life is maybe sometimes you got to realize some people who pretend to be your friend aren't your friend. I was like, I see, but see, I'm your friend. Okay. No, I said, see, you may be your friend, and you invited me over here. And I just wanted to know if you would have actually killed me if I had actually told you no. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't care how much you would have pled for your life. I would have snatched you up by the arm. I'd have took you outside, beat you in the head, let you leave there while I went in and finished my sucker, and I'd taken you out, and I'd gotten rid of you. And I was like, well, that doesn't sound like a friend. I said, now, if I were your friend and I were the adult and I invited you over to my home to play with my children, bathe with my daughter, wouldn't you like me to make you feel safe? And he goes, well, little man, be your age. You're talking like an adult. Yeah, I would really but if you would keep me safe if I were in your position. So I was like, well, since you depend on me, you're safe. And I depend on you to keep things safe. And he goes, well, Charles, now that you've asked me that question, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to be your friend. Okay. And I'm going to make certain that you're safe tonight, that nothing bad is going to happen to you. So you can go ahead and go out there and play with my children, have fun, and get ready for your bath tonight. So that was my introduction to his family. And it was about 6 weeks. I think what it was is when I came back home, of course, when he dropped me off, my mom asked him how I was. Oh, I was the ideal. I couldn't ask for a more mannered, obedient child. And everything I was instructed was perfect. They would love to have me over to stay again. You know, so I imagine how many people get parents who get freaked out hearing that out of me, because it kind of makes me myself wonder, how common this stuff really is. Just from they could think that it's very common, but I think it's common enough. There
Yeah.
are parents that have children that are like this, and if that's the case, you really you look at the mothers and you kind of question, well, hey, why would you do this? Why would you permit your children? Well, looks like there's a possibility of some generation, and I don't think that there's a family in this nation that is immune from having at least one in their family. one member like that in the family. Maybe enough that the others are afraid to say it because you know, killed. It makes you wonder. But of course, my mom was able to get hold of my dad and tell him what I told her after Fred came in and told her and called my grandmother and got in touch with him. So he immediately came home. And once I told him not, he was going to go talk to him. I said, "No, no, Daddy, you can't go talk to him." Why's that, son? He said, "If you find out, he will kill you immediately on the spot." And I had to look him in the eye and repeat that. So he left and had my mother take my brother and I over to my grandmother's. So we would be, you know, pretty well watched. And that's pretty much where I wound up living afterwards until he purchased two ranches up in Fannin County, Georgia.
Your daddy purchased them?
Yes, ma'am. He had two brothers up there that he knew. They knew his family and stuff up in Tennessee there, where my great grandfather is buried at and was raised my, you know, my paternal grandfather and his brother. Because he was the railroad engineer that put the, you know, railroad tracks throughout that region. And he got killed by this black man for running the railroad through his land.
Well,
So my grandfather and his brother, they had to go and live with a um, uncle or someone down in Roswell for a while before going and living with another relative.
is that Roswell, Georgia?
Yes, ma'am. But so instead of moving all the way up to around Ducktown, Turtletown, Tennessee, he decided that Morganton was a lot closer. Well, maybe not a lot closer, but it was in an area where, you know, even some of my, you know, my maternal grandfather, one of his best friends, fellow preachers, actually preached at the church or one of the churches I attended, which was Morganton Baptist back in the day. They were Buster Henderson and my granddad. They were best friends. So the night of rest, which was that night, he got everything in order. He had a friend who was a police officer out of county, and he let him know. He started an investigation immediately. That night, got with his superiors and asked them to allow him to lead the investigation. So they wound up contacting some cousins and uncles, and I think they had like two detectives, and, you know, two or three patrol officers that night. And Galloway was one patrol when they made the arrest. And um, my aunt, she stayed in the office there by the living room. You know, he turned one of the bedrooms into his office. And she had two pistols. Whatever he does, don't let him step in the hallway and view that door. I don't care if it's dead. I'm shooting him. Sure enough, when it came in um, for the meeting, my dad got that call and told me to come home to the house. There was a different job you needed to talk to him about in person. So, of course, Jim knew exactly what that meant. He knew. So, of course, he had to go. So he took his 45 on shoulder holster and decided his jacket and decided to come over and find out that, yeah, my dad didn't die by now. But my dad wouldn't show his gun unless he showed him his. And that was one of those conditions. Um, he told my dad he brought his. So my dad was goes, oh, well, let me see it. He goes, well, let me see yours. Well, no, you let me see yours first, and I'll show you mine. Type deal. Um, and he goes, well, how do I know you don't have one? Well, just pull yours, and you'll see. I got mine.
I'll show you. I got proof.
Yeah. Well, so I had these cousins and um, uncles and aunts all standing outside with their rifles and guns pointed at them. Officers, detectives out there with theirs pointed at them. So, it wouldn't been a good idea for him to pull his pistol at that time. He he started to go down to see who was in the house, rest of the house down the hallway. And he walked past my mom who was sitting at the dining room table. You get to the hallway. Um, my dad told me, he goes, I would go past that door way right there if I were you. And he goes, why is that? And he goes, well, because you will not make it out of that hallway alive. Oh, really? Well, what's in there? Well, if you want to find out, just step over there and take a look, and it'll be the last thing you see. And he goes, well, how do I know you're bluffing? Well, just step in the hallway and you'll find out. And believe me, you'll see who it is, and it'll be the last person you'll see in your life.
Well, he had no rights going through the house like that either.
Mm-mm. So he wanted to go over and peek out the windows, and he goes, oh, you think I know the window? I'm going to show you my gun. You know, I'm going to use it. So you go to that front door, you open that front door, you don't think about stepping back in here. You don't open the door and decide you're going to shut it because you're still going to shoot you.
How old were you at this time?
I was 6.
You're still 6?
I was still 6. Now this was around a good 3, 6 weeks after this happened.
Oh, okay.
And what I think was my dad told my brother that he thought something was funny because I no longer wanted to ride on the heavy equipment with Jim Stubbs. I think I tried it one more time and he said something to me and let me off, and I know then it never would get on another piece of heavy equipment. And that was a red flag to my dad. So I believe he went to my brother and told him, well, he hangs out with you more than he does, the other brother and sister. See what you can get out of him. see if there's anything that happened over there at that house that I need to know about. So, of course, you know, what's my brother supposed to do? So that's why I wasn't able to get him to change his mind. So
Your brother was not there for you. He was there basically for their needs and their deeds.
well, later on,
No,
I
later
mean,
on. Okay.
yeah, he wound up becoming one of them. Um, and he wound up being sexually abused by another one of them. I mean, this story gets really, really, really bad.
Right.
Um, mhm. So we wound up moving after he gets before he goes outside. He goes, well, you may not be able to. You may be able to protect your wife and your other children from me, but you'll never be able to protect, me. He goes, you will not stop me from getting to him. I don't care how long you lock me up. And my dad told him, well, it's time for you to get out that door. Well, everybody wondered why he didn't shoot. But he had this fear that he would have been charged for shooting and still could have had to go to trial and all that, being developer builder and could have ruined him and all that. I could understand that. But everybody that was standing outside listening, and including my mom, wondered why he didn't shoot him. And I think really the thing was he really didn't want to shoot him in front of us,
Right.
or he would. Because in 1975, if I hadn't turned my back, he would have wound up shooting him in front of me.
Right.
So anyway, I wound up having to stay at my grandmother's. And of course, he wound up purchasing two ranches. We wound up moving in on one. It was sweet. Had, 2-acre pond and the back pasture, but it was infested with snakes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so we always had to look out for snakes and stuff like that because, there's always an argument. And, this region of North Georgia and the cottonmouth moccasins only being south of Macon fall line whenever they're having cottonmouths spotted in North Georgia. It's always been this controversy between um, the real outdoorsmen of the North Georgian,
And
regions.
and the people that live in another country, cottonmouth moccasins, they're poisonous,
Mm-hmm. Well, they look like
venomous.
they look a lot of similarities. Some of them, the Georgian, copperheads that are poisonous. Um, but of course, we have the ringnecks and the garter snakes and water moccasins. Um,
And we had
um,
rattlesnakes.
hmm We were lucky enough not to. I think we may have found one rattler, but hardly ever did we find any rattlesnakes on on the ranch where we live. Um, but they were all out in the front and back pastures, mostly at the 2 acre pond. And they had gathered up under this boat. I capsized and I dropped the anchor through the bottom of it one day. We had it there on the shore, and they started nesting up under it. And of course, my older brother and I, while my aunt was up there babysitting us for 2 weeks, um, allowed us to use her fishing gear to go fishing one day, and we wound up killing 28 snakes.
Oh boy.
We took the long 2x4 and some logs. We, even though there were snakes, there was still fish that come up to that area. And just being boys, we decided to fish it. We started hooking snakes. We really wanted to hook snakes, to be honest.
Right.
But the excuse was, we were so cheap at catching fish and wound up hooking snakes. So she was standing out on the back patio of the house, just screaming at us, telling us, "Y'all better stop! You're gonna get snake there." Well, the beauty of it was we had all this rock and stuff on that side of the lake. We just pick up and get everything. And that's what we were doing.
Yeah, they like limestone. They like to hide out in that limestone rock.
Yeah, but we were getting in the hands. Two of them got away. When my dad came back from vacation, me and my brother and I, we went out. Got two of them out from under the boat, and wound up, we wound up shooting one there and wound up going to the other side. And actually, the one when you got over there to get it, actually, coming and the shotgun to my brother to shoot him before my dad got snake bit. So there was a couple of bonds between him and my brother. That worked in my brother's paper.
Right.
That automobile accident. My brother helped take care of him.
Right.
Um,
A minute ago, you said something about. Uh-oh. Yes. Hold on a minute. I'm not sure what. Hold on. I don't know why it's doing that. Hold on a minute, y'all. I'm not sure why that's just popping up. Hold on. Trying to get past that. Okay. There we go. There. I'm sorry about that. That I made the. Could y'all block him? Can y'all, Jackie? Can you kick that guy out? Y'all see what he did, Jackie? Or our vacant list? Please get rid of him. Y'all see what he said across the screen there? Sicko.
well, they always like to put their agents on there. They always um,
Abandoned him.
places about all your Facebook groups. Anybody who comes out with anything that talks about um, child abuse, people always yeah, there's those out there that do abuse children in the Greece that we're discussing.
Yeah.
That's the last topic in the world they won't discuss. And I found that out in 1989 there in Marietta when I was pretty much, told by deputies I better hang it up or something bad happened.
Right.
And trying to get with school system and awareness program. That's
Our
all.
our mission here is to stand up for children against these pedophiles, and this man came in making pedophile statements that he was doing this to his baby girl. You're sicko. We do not tolerate that here, and you're going to get justice one day for doing what you just did. And I pray to God that you're not messing with your daughter, just like what you just said that you did to your daughter. How dare you?
Oh, not even a joke. Joke. Really.
No, it's not. Exactly. Thank you, our bucket list, for reporting him. Uh, you want to get back to, you said something about, and what year was that when you had to turn your back? So when that happened that your dad protected you from that monster?
Yes, ma'am. He did finally wind up locating us. My dad still had my mom driving the same car while we stayed in Marietta. But the moment we moved there, he bought her a brand new automobile. It was a '73 automobile, Regency, the triple maroon package. I mean, top of the line. The moment we moved to Morganton, Georgia. And that way, it would take him longer to locate us. And when he got arrested, of course, guess who came to his rescue? Oh, was his great uncle George Bentley Sr.
Oh, great.
Mm-hmm. Went up the property barn, um, got him a lawyer. He was out for 9 days. The DA was talking like he would only maybe serve 3 years in prison before release. He was out on bond, so my dad pretty much had me with my grandmother and my aunt, or my uncle, Thomas uncle, and some of my other relatives lived close by to where we could ride to safety and be protected
Exactly. That's
until they could get us out of school down there, finish up the school year, and get us into the school system up there. So at the end of the school year, we were in Martin, Georgia lived, and then it was just that's where my best experiences in life ever began was there. In Morganton, of course, Bryce City, North Carolina. Um, People just up there are really wonderful. Um, Sometimes they'll have a Kansas City jump the gun
yes.
back, but other than that, they're pretty much, good down there. pregnant or strong Christian people, and they don't even like to talk about the issues of child abuse themselves. Like I said, I think every family got a share of the bad apples. Um, some are just worse than the others. Um, I think a lot of families got some really, really bad apples.
Yes.
Because my family wound up with one, two, or at least two. But um, he spotted her meeting with my dad one day when he left his job and went to meet with her at a restaurant and saw what kind of car that she was driving. And she had spotted him like a couple of times going up, Highway 5. She spotted him one time in Ball Ground, following us, and the sheriff's department wound up intervening and made traffic stops, and of course found out it was him. Don't know if there was any repercussions for it or what, but I think that's when my dad was able to get a protective order on him. If he did, I don't remember that much in depth. I know there was a lawsuit that came out after the death, and after the DA's office failed to indict my dad on desecration of the corpse, because when my dad buried him, he didn't bury him any 5, 6 feet deep. He buried him deep. I mean, like almost 20 feet deep.
Yeah.
But once he got word that he had found in Blue Ridge that we were living in Morganton, wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when he was going to find us. He decided to have his track hoe that Jim had operated for him move to the farm where we lived and sat there so he would recognize and know that that was the farm where we lived. So he turned around and he bought I think, a '74 Dodge Passenger van for that to be our vehicle where he could leave the Oldsmobile parked there at the house to where he would see that automobile, know that he found the house. Because he didn't want to take any chances of wondering if he would find out some way and him not know and possibly find the other ranch that he had purchased nearby um, that he took to stay until he could get the issue resolved. Um, but we did wind up having to move in the other house, the other place, until he could get this, you know, deal with this guy. So finally, one day, Bill Galloway, when Scott County found out that he was traveling up there looking and had located the vicinity where we were living, they allowed him, stake him out, and he wound up following him. But while en route from Marietta to Morganton, he only had one opportunity to contact the superiors, and he couldn't do it at the moment he needed to without being spotted. And he didn't want to blow it, so um, he couldn't communicate with command. And my dad, um, he had heard that he was planning to go up that way, so he took a day off, and I think he had one of his brother, Uncle Merle, to drive around like he was taking care of his business for him,
Right.
to make it look like he was the one in area taking care of his business, driving his truck and all that, and where he could go out there and hang out with, like stuff that he was actually, Marietta. And it worked. He went up there thinking that my dad was not up there. And I got up there. There was no place he could stop and communicate with the man. So he parked over what is, the church of the old elementary school back then that I attended. This church today. He parked over there close to this church I love and run. And we went, our driveway was maybe a mile, maybe a little bit more than a mile of the walk of, Highway 76 there. He worked his way, instead of through down the highway, he walked in, by this old house that used to stand there that was run down. Um, Old, 19th century home. Um, and just walked behind people's homes that day till he got over, um, to our ranch. And he went over. There was this old row bed. There was a section there on the west side of the ranch. There was nothing but wooded area, and of course the creek run down through it from, underground. Um, in a creek down there, and that's where he wound up hiding. Was in a thicket by that creek set out to the clearing there by where our garden was,
Right.
and watching the house. Um, Officer Galloway, he was able to work his way back up around and back around to the side of the house and come in and talk with my dad and let him know where he was at. Of course, we had our ranch hand Johnny, lived in this little 2-bedroom cottage that was there, up toward the barns and stuff. Um, he had his shotgun. Of course, my dad had his gun. We had to wait for Johnny to walk around behind the, um, back pasture in the pond and up into the wooded area that was up there. Um, keep an eye on my dad where he can work his way around up there and get position. But there was this old apple orchard that went, west, that I walked up when I was given the signal, and that's when he came out. I don't see how they concealing himself from him because he had to be like maybe within 20 feet of him, and was able to watch him without him discovering him. And he came out and saw me as I was walking up and approached me, and um, I kind of acted like I was surprised to see him, just to throw him off. Um, and he come walking up and pretty much told me, told me what he did, um, before he raised his gun and he pulled out his gun. He was ordered to drop his gun. Um, and he went to instead pointed it at me. So right when he pointed it at me, I didn't want to see him shot, so I turned my back right when they shot him. And of course, after the school year started, um, some of the kids at the school had been put up to ask me, you know, did my dad shoot him just for showing up, or sheriffs wanted to get the sheriff's department to do an investigation. They knew he had showed up there, but he didn't leave.
Right.
His car stayed parked where it had been parked, and of course, it was a week or two later reported missing. And of course, Fannin County found his automobile abandoned up there. So they had a missing persons case, to investigate. And just about everybody and their brother there in Morganton knew that he was dead. Everybody.
Right.
Uh, he came up there looking for us, and he did not go back.
Yeah, he was trying to kill you like he said he was going to come back and do, right?
That's right. So my dad took, when he buried him, he took this dead cow he had dug up and buried it back over on top of where he was buried at, around 13 feet above him, about 6 feet deep from the surface. And all this track go back then. Um, South Cherokee, where he was developing at the time, to his jobs down there to be his own job.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this guy was free, and what we cannot stand a lot of times is these pedophiles, especially if you got a lot of power and prominence and money and stuff, they get a slap on the wrist.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to pay as much time for the crime.
Mm-hmm. No, they don't. And it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Exactly.
And they'll tell you it's not what you know, it's who you know. And the nation knows we've got our numbers of them already because they're already out in the public view. So we'll get to them later.
And your daddy did eventually tell him that he did it, right?
Yeah.
And your daddy did eventually tell him that he did it, and that was to save you, right?
Well, he didn't have to. I was at school. One of my classmates asked me one day what had happened, and I told him to keep a secret, not tell anybody that he came up there and tried to kill me. but I didn't see him because he turned my back. Well, by the time it got back to around the sheriff's department, I believe it was Joe Kirby, the sheriff at the time. By the time he gets back to his office, well, he was shot. I just didn't see him shot.
Right.
So, of course, there was an investigation automatically launched. Two, that he wasn't even reported as being shot. But, Officer Galloway, being his friend, Bill Galloway, he told him that the county might go try to indict him because he, took his machine up there to lure him, and they still charged him, not too big, but they still charged him. My dad's something very on the base, where he was political work for real. He got for Johnny and his wife. One that lived up where he did, her and drove school buses. They couldn't have
Have you heard any more about how Bentley's kids were they ever able to get out of it? Are they doing okay today that you know of or anything?
past year. And, it's one of the reasons why I've done some of my posts on Facebook is to find out how they're doing.
Is that any better? A bucket list said it's got low sound, so is this any better?
Yeah, but I've not been able to find out how they're doing. I would like to know. I know it had a really, really bad impact on their mother. Because she and I, we had our discussion in 1998 about it. And she filled me in on some things that I didn't, I had wondered and suspected, but I didn't know for certain. And that was the closing of one Christian school that I attended school at one year. But my dad did have to go and testify before his grand jury why he made the decisions that he did. And it was kind of funny, though, because, one sheriff did find out. He did an investigation. They brought one of those old rubber tire backhoes out there to the farm thinking they was going to dig up his body. And they found the dead cow bones. And we're back living on that ranch. So he sent his detective down there when they found a couple of cow bones and to let my dad know that they had found something. And my dad goes, "Well, really? How deep?" And he goes, "Well, you just found a couple old cow bones. I think you found something, and that's why I get upset. It's all there intelligence, Just go up there and tell your boss just because he's dug up a couple of cow bones doesn't mean he's found anything. Because there is a dead cow buried up there. And anyway, so of course he goes up and tells Sheriff Kirby, and he comes down and comes in and kind of, he gets upset because now he's done insulted his intelligence. So, well, I'm going to take your boy up here and we're going to ask him some questions. Then Dad was like, all right, well, fine. So we get up there they found the cow bones. He looked at me and he was, all right, boy, where is he at? I was like, why would I tell you if you're trying to send my daddy to prison? And he was like, well, it's one thing if he showed up here and he actually pulled his gun on you and was about to shoot you when your daddy shot him. I said, well, that's exactly what happened. And he was like, well, why did you tell everybody you didn't see it? I said, because I turned my back before he shot me. He didn't quite believe that. Really? Well, what did he say before he tried to shoot you? I said, he said that the crimes that he was going to be convicted of and sent to prison for, that his life would be so rough that he might would die in there, and he wasn't leaving this world without taking me out first. Well, they knew then I wasn't lying. And all of a sudden, my dad and I had new friends. The detective, he had a daughter that was like maybe a year younger than me. She went to a different school, didn't know her. And he was like, well, you know what, Charles, I'm a detective and, I don't know what would have happened. Same situation as your dad. I would have seen him. And of course, Sheriff Kirby was like, well, yeah, I got a son. He's, around 12 years old. And, I'm in law enforcement. And, you know, I can handle this type of stuff being in my position as sheriff. Under those circumstances, I'd had to shoot him too. So your daddy didn't do anything we wanted done ourselves. I said, so you're not going to try to send my daddy to prison? No, I need to try to send your daddy to prison, at least for murder. Um, Getting rid of his body is a horse of a different color. So, where is he? I said he's around 13 feet below that cow. And of course, the farm, the tractor operator there, he was very kind, and he was like, yeah, I did too, and he goes, well, that's good. You need to get up around that tractor and bury up that cow. We're closing this up. And at least we got this part of the case solved. And of course, the grand jury wasn't indicted that for any wrongdoing. Um, of course, family decided since he had custody of the children, okay, they had put his niece in um, Georgia Regional. Um, I don't know if she was out then or not, but she had served her time there, psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, it does mess with the mind and everything to be done this way, and then he ended up with custody of them too.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Her
messed
uncle
up.
ended up in custody with her children.
That is very
And
messed up. Knowing he was a violent person and everything, and he got custody of these other kids too.
well, he had sexually abused her. Her parents, if I remember correctly, had died in an automobile accident back in 1953. And he wound up adopting her.
Boy.
And she was like 9, and eventually wound up sexually abusing her. So her solution was when she got out of high school to escape from him was to go out and find her a good man and get married. And she wound up meeting, you know, Jim down there. So I forgot where she said they met at. And, here he was, this macho guy, appeared to have his head on straight. You know, she thought she had her real man until after she said her marriage vows. Because, that's how they change their some of the, oh, he's the perfect Prince Charming and all that. And, they say, after they're, married, he's total nightmare.
Yeah. Like I thought mine was a perfect Prince Charming too, that he was going to be my rescuer, that he would not never do anything that what was done to me. I really thought differently.
Yeah, so all those old dads up there proved me they, well, hey, never laid a hand on any of mine, never would even attempt to even consider doing that to my own children, but even more so to anybody else's child. Um, I, I just, I totally refuse to, relate to people that'll do that to children, especially their own.
Right.
But they're out there. And he wasn't the first one, I wound up having an encounter with that had done that to at least one of his daughters. Um, so Billy, of course, decides to sue my dad in '76. I forgot how much money. He wanted my dad to pay child support for the children, their college, and their vehicles. You know, so of course, my dad messed up. He wound up hiring another ranch hand that was married with a daughter, and he wound up moving in where Johnny and Orly lived on our ranch. She was I don't know, she was like a little younger, just a little bit younger than me by much. But my siblings and I were not allowed to communicate with her. She didn't go to the public school, she was homeschooled. And we were not allowed to play or communicate with her. And he wound up sexually abusing our little girl.
Oh man.
And when we started out, we'd go out and we'd help. My dad do stuff on the weekends and stuff that my dad needed to do in exchange for them to live in that little house for free. Yeah, if he had to do some far extra stuff, my dad had no problem paying him the extra money on the extra stuff he had to do. But if he wanted to live there, he'd go around and just do basic maintenance and stuff at both ranches. Fix the barbed wire fence and, place a fence post here or there,
It's bad that he took advantage of free reign of the kids, so done what he did either. That's horrible.
Mm-hmm. Well, Fred, he started sniffing gasoline when he was like 5 years of age. Um, when we were living in Florida, when my dad was doing stucco work, he wound up with a big job down there. Some building him and his brother Merle, and it was it was good enough deal to give up developing and building in Cobb County at that time and go down and undertake the um, contract for the stucco work on the building. And one of my cousins, female, you know, Fred's age, got him sniffing gasoline. When I was that age, I loved the smell of it from a distance.
Right.
But as far as sitting there and sniffing the fumes, because they tried to get me to it, I was 3 years old, and I didn't like it. And every time that, every time she came over, that's what they were doing. I was sniffing gasoline, cutting up, laughing, and all that. And that's why they're getting along so good. I think she wound up getting caught having to give it up. I don't know, but he uh, he was found one time in 74, 75 at my grandmother's house, um, laying on the ground with a smirk on his face. And my dad was over there pat him on the face and keep him awake, try to keep him from going to sleep because he had gotten so high on the fumes.
Right.
And of course, he wound up turning to blues and stuff when he got older. Well, the thing was, my daddy decided, you know, he's going to get some boxing gloves. You know, he got, two older boys, pair of boxing gloves, going to teach them to box. And, so my oldest brother gets up there and they put on the gloves, and first thing, Fred did was pop it in the nose. And, but, oldest brother did. Went running in the house crying. And he got popped in the nose. And he was afraid to put on the gloves and get out there and duke it out with him. That whenever Fred got through with his escapade with the gasoline sniffing, he would punch the first brother on the way to the oldest. In other words, if I was in the way, I got punched first because he was on his way to, make a, boxing bag out of my oldest brother. Didn't want to punch back because he didn't want to be punched in the nose. So I wound up with one brother I used to have to stick up for when growing up, and one I always had to protect myself against.
Right.
The situation. My dad, he found out that this guy Bart, spent a lot of time with Fred when we went out and did the repairs on stuff that they needed work on that first chance he got. Well, according to him, Fred, because he was such a better worker and stuff like that, anytime he needed chore, he preferred Fred. And of course, he would be giving pocket knives, gifts, and so I guess Fred was liking it.
Right.
Because it was going on, and he never would say anything when he got back. And so my dad found out that we weren't allowed to communicate with his daughter. That was a red flag.
Right.
He asked one evening, he goes, well, Bart, what is it about your daughter that you don't want her playing or communicating with my children? Well, being homeschooled and special education, and um, and we don't put her in public schools because we don't want her communicating with children in public schools, and including yours, because we're homeschooling. And well, you tell me when you had a daughter, I thought that the children might have an extra plaything because that's what accomplish them children. I don't know why you would want to alienate your daughter from children in the rest of the world. But if my children are not good enough to play with your daughter or communicate with your daughter, there's no place on this farm for you. It's time for you to get your family to move somewhere else. So I think my dad agreed to continue using him some, where he could get down to the bottom of his Fred's relationship or friendship. Because, Fred had been, every time he needed a little something, an extra set of hands, as he put it, it was always Fred. Fred was his buddy, this, that, and the other. So with the daughter deal, that was a red flag. So he wanted to get down to the bottom with this Bart Taylor guy. So one day we're at home. This is summer of '76, and he proceeds to come over into the other driveway, took to the other cottage and the barns and all that, where the ranch hand lived and all that. And supposedly him and Fred was going to have a talk. Well, about 15 minutes later, my mom looked at my oldest brother and I and told us to go up and tell Fred to come down to the house. She wanted to have a talk. So we go like we're told to do. We go to the hay barn. We walk in it, and it was about empty of hay, so we didn't have to really work our way through, but we were quiet enough standing, stepping on the loose hay that they couldn't hear us when we came walking up. But I know what I saw when I opened the door. Him buckling his pants, and that's the way these guys do, all of a sudden, my other brother and I were getting screamed at like we did something wrong. We wasn't supposed to be coming up there. We were in trouble. He couldn't wait to tell our mom, like we did something wrong. So we went back down and told her mom. She wanted to know what I saw, told her. So she picked up the phone and called our neighbor, J.D. Ralston. Told him that she's afraid she was about to have problems with this guy. So, of course, he grabbed his rifle and came down to the big bin that was there by the hay barn and kept an eye on him. When they came walking down to the house, she had Fred come in, and he looked at her and goes, "Well, Miss Rogers, your two sons came up there and interfered in our discussion." And she goes, "Well, I told them to go up there and tell Fred to come down here. I wanted to talk to him a minute." So they were doing what I instructed. "Well, yeah, but I'm going to need to come in. We're going to have a discussion about this." And she goes, "No, you're not coming in my house." "Well, yeah, we need to have a talk with your other two boys to let them know that not to come up and interrupt the conversations that Fred and I are having when we're talking important business." And she goes, "No, you're not coming in my house. You do, I'll shoot you." So, of course, he goes walking back up to his truck, reaches on his gun rack, pulls off his shotgun, and Mr. Ralston screamed out and told him if he didn't drop it, he was dropping it with him. So, of course, he had to drop his rifle and drive away. So after he was arrested and carried away, the first thing that Fred did was come walking down from the driveway, walk up to our oldest brother, and just popped him right in the nose. I asked him, I said, "Well, why did you do that?" "Well, he was giving me gifts and presents and money, and I didn't have to do that." I said, "Well, it was me. He saw what I saw and said what I said, not him." Well, he couldn't punch me in the face because he had already hit me in the head with a ball had the big end sorted one time. And he knew if he ever punched me in the face after the problems that I had, he was going to get a reckoning from the dad. So he had punched me in the arms. Because he was always twice my size. He was pretty much a lunatic all of his life. And
smelling gas and smelling fumes and stuff like that mess with his brain too.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they gave him a shot or not. He swore up and down that he didn't even know who Levi Brady was when I know better that he was very well involved in that boy's murder. But he wound up becoming one of them.
That's not surprising with the way he always retaliated back at y'all.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was kind of funny because I wish my dad had bought me the bicentennial chess set that he bought my oldest brother. Because my oldest brother doesn't even know how to play chess. Fred taught me. And he was a member of the chess club. And I never knew anything about the game until he taught me. And finally, when I beat him, first time I beat him, he was like, well, I get 2 moves out checkmate. I'm like, well, I thought you said that was the object of the game was to get you, 2 moves, get you in checkmate. Oh, no, I get 2 moves out checkmate. So I learned to beat him by putting him in checkmate even with his 2 moves out checkmate. So after that, he was like, well, it's time for you to go and join the chess club. And after that, I went and joined the chess club. Every school I went to, I was president of the chess club. Because he did have a really good game of chess. Fred wasn't an idiot with the chessboard. As far as chess, my oldest brother's the idiot with the chessboard because he still doesn't know how to play the game that I'm aware of.
I'm an idiot with it too because I don't know how to play.
But that's what I can say about my dad. My dad was cool. When he did move us, he bought us an air hockey table. Found out we just didn't have room for it.
Hey, Charles, Mr. Blackstone, you got a question on here. Darlene, I was born in 1961. Could you please ask Mr. Blackstone what year he was born, if he is okay with saying?
Well, I was born in 65.
Did you hear him okay, our bucket list? He said, okay, thank you.
Well, they're welcome. Anyway, after that went down, my dad moved us back to Marietta.
Yes.
And he enrolled us in this Christian school, Marietta Christian Schools. And I went from being top student in my class in elementary school to being put down a grade my first 3 days of school.
Why did they do that?
There, It wasn't the math. It was the theology mixed stuff that they was mixing in with their class, and which was totally foreign to me, because I had gone to church and I had heard preachers preach this and preach that. So they determined to convince my parents, and I can't believe my parents fell for it.
Right.
But they allowed them to drop me a grade.
And our bucket list, and our bucket,
that fast.
and our bucket list. I was born in '62, so yeah, I was born around the same era that you were. She was wondering because she said it sounded like you were born in around our era.
It was just all this that I was experiencing was just during and after the Vietnam War. I was 9 years old and 5 when I had the first attempt on my life, and that was just the first of many attempts on my life. That stemmed from what happened with this guy because of his his uncle and his connections and who all he was. They're very, very, very dangerous organization.
Yes.
It's not just a one member. It's not just one group in one state. They're pretty much spread out through the entire United States and then some.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, I wound up being put in public school the following year and worked my way back up to being top student at that. And they turned around and put me in another Christian school, which was Northside Christian School. And that school got shut down on the account of what the assistant principal, who was the preacher's son, 25-year-old punk, get his chance to do with a paddle when I was 13 years of age. Because my parents, when they enrolled us in that school, had the firm agreement with the preacher's wife and son that nobody paddled his children without he or my mother's approval.
Right.
And that was the deal. Well, a 25-year-old preacher's son, assistant principal, he didn't care for me too much. Found it kind of strange how this guy had this, strange beef with me. Big ego. He made a mistake one time of we didn't have campus with any fields. We were just in a little building with enough parking spaces. So we had to use the county parks as our facilities: baseball field, football field, soccer fields. So he made the mistake of taking us to the soccer fields and putting my brothers and a couple other guys on the team with us without putting any of us on the team with them. That was a huge mistake because every one of us were natural soccer players. It was just a natural to us. I mean, we wore their butts out. And I embarrassed him. He came and he got the ball from me and turned around and got it back from him. And then he came to get it and I turned around and gave it to him and turned around and took it back from him.
So you got to paddle him for that, huh?
Well, it wasn't for that. This what Terry Stubbs told me in 1998 was he had become friends. His dad and parents was friends with Bentleys.
Oh no. Oh man.
Yeah. So he was aching to get a title hold of me. And my dad, he raised us, not to go out here and start fights or trouble. And if we did get in a fight, not to use weapons, use our hands. But if we did start a fight and we got our butt beat, and we were going to get it once we got back home for starting a fight and getting our butt whooped. And we would lose our allowance if we started a fight and beat the other person up. He did not want his sons going out being troublemakers. But if anybody said anything about our mother, if we didn't jump on them and try to fight them, it didn't matter if we lost. We were going to get it from them and be found out. That's why, my dad raised us. And we had this real arrogant, smart down kid. Our classes said something about my mother in front of my sister and oldest brother one day after school got out. I didn't have an opportunity to do anything but chase him out the door. And that was it. But I got accused of kicking at him. And I was like, no, if I was going to kick him, I'd have kicked him. Didn't have a chance to get at him and kick him. But they decided they were going to give me a paddling anyway. 21 swats.
21?
21 swats. They had their little mock trial. I was the defendant. Jerry was the prosecutor, and his dad, Bill Fincher, was the judge.
And yet your parents were not there.
Yeah, my parents had not even been notified. My mom was on her way to pick us up, so they could have waited to get her permission, which she wouldn't have gave it. I was bruised from the top of my thighs to the top of my kidneys.
Oh man. They got your back and everything, huh?
Hit me on the back and everything. He had a handle he used to brag about to all the students that he had the handle. He loved to give paddlings because he could grip it like a golf club and give it that swing. So when he got to like the seventh swat, hit me on the back the way he did, he was like, "How's that feel? That make you feel like wanting to punch me, Charles? Go ahead, punch me." And so I threw down this paddle. We fought like a man. Dang, the guy was 25 years old. Well more than twice my size. Because I really didn't go on much of a growing spree until I got into high school. And I really didn't gain the height that I did until after I got out of school. So, but I grew up rough. The moment my parents moved us back to Marietta, I was fighting pretty much every day of my life. East Cobb County was in the, I think 1981, 60 Minutes did a did spill on about the violence, the drugs, the gangs, and the area just, the violence, the fights that it made minutes. Once they extended Interstate 75 from Dalton, Georgia, down to Marietta, it opened up just like my dad said it would. all of these businesses started coming in. All these people started moving in from out of state, and there was that, big difference. So with smart Yankees, you're the dumb Southerner type stuff. And, I started noticing that, out of a lot of when I came back down with school, and I had actually, by the time I was in middle school, so fed up with having problems out of other children I didn't even know. Starting problems with never hurt them, but they hurt me because, well, you had at Bentley Jr. out there passing around money and stuff, and the kids start trouble with me, and I didn't really understand why I was having problems. The children didn't know who I, they knew who I was, but I didn't know who they were. Type deal. I was always wondered why that was until Terry broke down and told me that the same thing that had happened at that Christian school was motivated by, her brother, her adopted brother, past Eddie Bentley. And a lot of the problems I had in the area was on the account of him. So,
all stemming basically from the sex abuse and stuff, eh?
well, yeah, we're getting into the deep stuff now when we start bringing up the unnecessary things. Once we start getting into what's coming out in court right now in Fulton County, I've actually had one of them decide they want to sue me for libel. And that's one thing I really don't have to worry about because, number one, if I got something to say to somebody, I'm not going to say anything behind their back. I'm not going to say to them.
Right.
And I would appreciate the same respect if somebody's got something, bad they got to say about me, something I've done wrong or, did to somebody. At least have the decency or, to come up and tell me instead of going out and telling somebody else something maybe you had heard from somebody else and, didn't see for yourself, wasn't there or whatever. If you're going to talk about a person, at least confront them first, see what they got to say so they can defend themselves instead of just jumping the gun.
Exactly.
And that's, you run into a lot of that. And there's, I remember times when I was growing up, I heard, even my own mother and, conversations, some of her relatives about, the little old 12, 13-year-old tramp. Well, I'm sorry, but as an adult, from my experience, how can there be a 12-year-old tramp, okay, if she's not a sexual abuse victim? I mean, that's the difference that we're looking at today versus a lot of the adults' mentality at the time that, when we were children.
And the thing is, they're the ones that were the trap, not kids. The kids were forced into doing their sick, twisted things,
That's it. And, and you just, even as a, child in school, I didn't know that, some of the classmates that I was in class with were being, sexually abused by members of their families.
Exactly. Bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
She said she was a victim and said, right, that's how our era treated victims.
Well, I'm not going to say I came from the role model family, but there's no, by far, means we were not a functional family. Now, I didn't have to worry about my parents doing anything like that to any of my siblings or me. I didn't have to worry about my aunts or uncles or cousins that were the ages to be my parents. And, actually had cousins on my dad's side that was same age or older than my mom. But that's because my dad was the youngest of, 11 children. And, he had brothers that were almost old enough to be his parents, you know.
I think they I think they didn't expect you to put up as much of a fight that you fought though, because your brother didn't gave up pretty easily, you know what I mean? And but you like heck no.
Well, what really kicked it off was um, after the city of Marietta had to shut down Northside Christian. They didn't immediately shut it down. The city went in, took the school over, so everybody else could graduate. I got expelled for the last 6 weeks. So when I went over to Mabry Middle the following year, I was two years behind my age group. Well, I had this wonderful teacher. I cannot remember her name. Just this real, real pretty brunette sweetheart. Very good with her class. Mother herself. Just wonderful, wonderful teacher. I had a really wonderful counselor. The principal I had was the principal from first grade. Was also my principal at that school. So he and I already knew each other. And that teacher didn't think that I needed to repeat the sixth grade. And she went to my counselors, and the counselor, not going to say her last name because she has the same last name as me.
Right.
But a real nice lady. And I was given a choice. Instead of just bumping me back up to the seventh grade, since I had been put down in two Christian schools when I had academics in the public schools, they gave me the choice, take the seventh or the eighth grade. And I really started to take the seventh grade because, what would happen if I missed something that I really needed, graduation. It could affect me from graduating. But they were like, well, we could put you in with your same age group again. And I was like, well, okay. So that's how I never was in the seventh grade in school. I wound up going from the sixth back up to the eighth in the same, back with my age group. But my first day, um, it was kind of funny because I went to my art class, knocked on doors, and of course that teacher, she really wasn't that friendly of a teacher. A lot of students really didn't care for her. And she had an attitude wanting to know why I came in her door, and I came and gave her a piece of paper, and of course she busted me out into the class. Well, you're in the sixth grade. You're not in this class. And she looked at the paper. She had to go and look. Well, I went over and I sat down at the table with one of the school bullies. I was met the guy a day of my life, didn't know who he was. It was nice to him and his brother. They're both the same class together, same grade. Old Tracy, big old boy, he was a lot bigger than I was. Well, by the end of the class, we were already in a fight. I was already sitting in the office. I had my assistant principal looking at me. I had just been put from sixth to the eighth grade, and there I was already sitting in her office for being in a fight. And it just, after that, it was like, well, that was a fluke. I can beat him up. It's just, you go to school with a bunch of egos. People out there think they got to prove a point, that they all want to be the Mr. Macho tough guy, and you just pretty much want to get along with them. And it's just, that's why I never really cared about living in that area. Just, you just don't have that or you get back then. You just didn't have that out in the suburbs, out in the country. The people were less in number, so you didn't have as many in the schools, I should say. But so what happened with the lawsuit? But Ed Sr. filed against my dad. He wound up losing. Part of the conditions of my dad's countersuit, they settled out of court for. I forgot how much money my dad received for having to go up and purchase 2 ranches. But he wound up selling the ranch back to the son of the man he bought it from. And he lives there, still till this day. And he kept the other ranch that we had that we went and temporary stayed at. He kept that for a long time. And we would still go up there in the summer and camp out in the pasture. He'd rent the house out. And he still had people that would take care of cattle and stuff like that. And we still had our home raised beef, when I was growing up. But I was to be awarded 6 acres with a house that was able to be occupied. Something just there. It had to be inhabitable. $450,000. And I was supposed to receive that by the 1st of August of 1996. So they wound up carrying the children into a house. We had to tear down the 2 concrete structures. So we wound up moving in this one house in East Cobb. And my parents wound up separating there for about a year, and I wound up going high school up in Dahlonega. And I had to put up one boy up there for 8 days. It got the basketball coach suspended for 30 days because he allowed the student to try to start a fight with me every morning at my homeroom class, which was, PE. That was my homeroom class. And he allowed this guy to try to start a fight with me from the very first morning at that school.
Make you wonder if he had ties with Bentley, too.
I doubt that. That he could have. But I think what it was, new kid, didn't know anything about him, knowing I'm going to try him. He don't look like he can fight. And it was quite embarrassing on the 8th day. It was the actual 8th school day, and somebody wound up pulling the fire alarm. And so the entire school got to go outside. Well, that's when I decided to fight him. And after that, I didn't really have to worry about any more fights. After that, you got along great with everybody. So I didn't have to worry about that. I didn't get suspended. He got suspended. And the coach wound up suspended for 30 days. No pay. Instead of losing his license to teach, because if they revoked his license, my dad decided to sue they would have had to revoke his teaching license. Well, he wouldn't have been able to coach basketball anymore. So he was thrilled to take a 30-day without paid suspension. He had to go over there at North Georgia College and get him a job there at Dairy Queen. But he was suspension. Invited me over and bought me some food one night.
Oh, he did?
He sure did.
Boy.
He still worked there part-time after school to get caught up on his bills for a while. We wound up getting along together, and yeah, he actually treated me out over there one night. Told me to come by one night. He paid me anything I wanted. Went over there. He hooked me up. A couple of chili burgers and fries. He was thrilled to keep his job.
Right.
Um,
I know some things that we got to be careful about discussing about, and we got to close pretty soon. But I just wonder if there's anything else you want to discuss. Also, before we'll do part two sometime soon. Just let me know when.
okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to at least say this, just so your audience won't be surprised when a lot of this starts coming out. Is um, I really don't want to. No, I guess I shouldn't say that because it give too much away about these cases.
Right.
But just so everybody knows that on the night of January 28th, 1998, the night before the attack on the new women's healthcare clinic and the FBI field office in Mobile, Alabama, there was a 263-pound hydrogen bomb that was surrendered to the ATF at a particular location in Murphy, North Carolina.
Wow. That's in North Carolina, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Bucket List said this was a great discussion. Thank you. And Jackie said thank you for sharing your story, sir. But we'll let you go on and discuss that if you want to. What happened?
Yeah, you might want to say that for another episode, because after I get everything filed, it's going to be the matter of public record. Anybody that's got PACER on the federal cases will be able to Google, pull it up on PACER. For the federal cases, the Fulton County State Court's coming up for trial next week. I've already released some information on social media to show that I really don't have any reason to enjoy lying, because I'm not lying, number one. Number two, accuse people who do exist of doing things they didn't do. That's just not me. I wouldn't like it done to me, and I don't know of anybody out there, including those that are wrongfully convicted in the prison system, who appreciate it.
And I like the fact that you got the evidence behind some of the things, like with per se the thing you put up FB recently about him admitting way back then that he was there when during one of the times that they attempted to kill you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say one name, and I'm just going to do it in a complimentary way. This guy by the name of John Bennett Ramsey, the dad of John Benet. I know for a fact he raised a very, very, very wonderful daughter named Beth. Beth is one of the most beautiful and real ladies along with her boyfriend, Matt Darrington. They were just, you know, picture perfect couple. I was flabbergasted when I met her, and I'm not going to say that John actually raised her, but her mother Lucy did a very, very wonderful job in at least raising Beth Ramsey to be the lady that Beth Ramsey became before her Matt tragically lost their lives in that incident that night. Yeah, I'll just say that.
Right. And there's some more that cannot be said at the moment because of what's going on right now. But y'all stay tuned and please support him and whatever. Um, and we thank you for everything that you're getting out there and you're doing to fight for us. We appreciate all that.
Well, thank you for your support, ma'am, and I hope everybody have a blessed day. And let's keep the other victims in our prayers because this is an ongoing crisis, and if today's not the time to stand up and start being vocal, we may not ever be able to put an end to this mess.
Yes.
And our country is in a crisis. And thank you for using my banner as your banner in starting this program. So, Ms. Clark, you and everybody else have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you so much. And God bless you.
Thanks.
To keep doing what you do, sir, is what you said. It's a pleasure to hear from what you have to say.
Well, it's a pleasure, everybody, getting to hear this part of the story.
And our bucket list has hosts. Thank you, Mr. Blackstone, and God bless you and your family.
Well, that's likewise to everybody out there, and and even those you have questions about, still kind of keep them in your prayers. But you have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you so much. God bless. Thank you. Well, thank y'all, everyone, for coming and supporting. I figured there was a lot he had to say, and I am glad that he's helping out people and keeping this fight going. And I say, God bless y'all, and keep him in your thoughts and prayers as he's going through those endeavors to fight for justice for a lot of these things going on. And God bless y'all. You're quite welcome.